I find this hard to write down. This is probably my 5th attempt at doing this, but I pushed through thanks to the support of my fiancé. I used to spend my whole life on the ocean. The only thing that could and would drag me away was Sam. At the time the incident happened, I hadn't yet proposed, so we were still dating at the time. He was always cautious of my career choice in marine biology. He always asked me why I couldn't just pick the safer positions in aquariums. I always told him that aquariums only held a fraction of the wonders that the ocean and sea provided, and what was there was rarely anything new. I dreamed of being a trailblazer in marine biology. In past studies that I had partaken in, I was an assistant, a student. Now I was co-leading an expedition with another up-and-coming researcher, Ethan Petrakis. Ethan recently discovered a mass migration path for great white sharks and had been studying them for the last 2 years. They were going back out to study some slight changes in the path using a cage dive and other systems. The diver selected was Alicia Paez. She was a talented woman, professional diver, shark expert, and surfboarding hobbyist, a fellow ocean lover. I was invited after a study I performed on recent changes in mako shark hunting behaviors was published. It wasn't the most groundbreaking results, but it caught Ethan's eye. Sam nearly fainted when I excitedly told him the news, specifically when I mentioned the sharks. He asked if I was sure it was safe, and I promised I wasn't going in the water. That was being left to Alicia. It's great to finally see you face to face. Ethan gave a big smile as I boarded the boat. Alicia, Marcus Fulton is here. He called across the deck. Alicia came up, a warm grin graced her lips as we shook hands. You sure you don't want to dive with me? Sorry. I'd love to, but I promised my boyfriend that I'd stay above water. What a shame, she said before walking to another conversation held between a scientist and one of the boat workers. Well, your boyfriend will be sleeping easy. This vessel is brand new and built to take on the toughest stuff the sea can throw at us. Ethan gleamed. Besides marine biologist, he was also a ship enthusiast. The ship was impressive, sternly built and quite large. The cage and chain it was connected to were also built to be highly resistant to all sorts of trauma. While sharks don't attack humans with this change in behavior, precautions are always taken. It took about a day to reach the spot where the paths of the sharks had shifted. While we were measuring tons of variables, temperature, sound, etc., the purpose of the dive was to get a good look at the condition of the sharks. See if anything physical had happened to them to cause a change. Ethan wondered if orcas had potentially discovered the migration path. Orcas were one of the only animals to prey on great whites. Sharks were known to flee if they sensed an orca, even if it was miles away. Alicia suited up and entered into the cylinder cage. The larger lights that crowned it flickered on. I noticed that the sky was getting darker and the ocean water was just as dark. The sharks moved at night, so it made sense, but it still unnerved me slightly. The crew was using a sonar and detected a large formation coming. The sharks were coming up. Alicia was lowered beneath the depths as Ethan and I went into a cabin to communicate through radio built into the diving gear. Alicia, this is topside. Can you hear us? Ethan spoke into a microphone. Loud and clear, topside. Alicia's response squared through the speakers in the room. Along with us, another man was monitoring the sonar. I could see the massive shape of the sharks getting closer and closer. Alright, Alicia, you should be seeing them soon. Hopefully the light doesn't scare them off too much. I was still monitoring the shape approaching us. They should have been close enough to see. I don't see the sharks yet, Ethan, Alicia called in. Maybe they're a bit lower. I'll ask Mix to check the depth. My bad. We'll have you lowered if necessary. The man on sonar, Mix, told Ethan the sharks were much lower than where Alicia was. Alicia, get prepared. The cage is getting lowered. The shark should be right below you. I watched from the large window in the cabin as 2 crew members cranked the metal chain, lowering Alicia further. See them yet? I asked before Ethan could, before turning my attention out to the ocean from the window. No, I don't see any sharks. Wait, I see something. Alicia went quiet for a second, before a loud scream pierced the speaker. Pull me back up, right. Her voice cut abruptly as the sound of crushing metal and swirling water deafened the room. I saw the chain outside tighten, and in the next second, the deck of the ship tilted suddenly. Before we knew it, the entire ship was pulled out from underneath us. I saw the ocean swiftly rush to my eyes, before I took a deep breath and the deck was submerged. The force sent me flying back against the wall. I regained myself and saw Ethan grab me and begin to pull me towards the now shattered window. I swam through and looked back to see Ethan come alone. He'd later tell me Mix was dead. A massive dent in his head from where he had made impact against the computer system. A few others were swimming to the surface, but I was one of the few who looked back down under the water. I saw the metal chain snapped and floating. The other end that was attached to Alicia's cage was gone. In the dark waters, I could barely see anything, but after a few seconds, the shadows began taking a shape. Amongst the misty darkness, something was moving. A large, slow mass pushed behind the shadows, using the dark and dirty ocean to protect its identity. I couldn't keep looking for long. I needed air, but I wanted to... No, that's not right. I didn't want to see what was down there. I had to. My body was telling me no. My brain was saying no, but some part of me had to know what had done this. My lungs defeated my curiosity as I rushed for air. The ship had been completely turned over. Its underside broke the surface. It was strange to see such a big boat completely flipped over like a kayak or a canoe. We clung to the side of the ship before it began to sink. The cold water took 2 men and a woman during the rest of the night. For hours, we kept ourselves afloat. By the end, we were all exhausted. The one thing that kept most of us going was the call. It started maybe 20 minutes after the ship went down. A massive bellowing call breached the surface. The volume was so loud that we thought it was right on top of us. But whatever made it wasn't anywhere near us, from what we saw. The call broke the silence 4 more times that night. Each time, it woke us from death's grip and reinvigorated our strength. Luckily, Ethan set up checkup times for the ship. At this point, 1 had passed, and just before the sun came up, helicopters came to save us. We were all hospitalized. Sam came to the hospital after I had recovered. He yelled at me before breaking down in tears, grateful I was alive. This was about a year ago. The proposal was 2 months ago, and we planned to marry early next year. To my surprise, he said he wanted to have it at a beach. I haven't been near the water since the ship was destroyed, which they never found its remains. But Sam knows how much I long to go back. He said that telling my story would help me take some of the weight off, maybe find others to share my pain and fear with. As of right now, the officials believe a whale had pulled the ship under, catching Alicia's cage in its mouth before plunging us down. I know it wasn't a whale. Whatever it was, it scared all the sharks away from that area. It was massive, and its call still pierces my dreams. I wish to return to the ocean, but fear chains me to the land. Sam, despite his past worries, close to the coast however, he knows I can't get over this fear on my own. Sam, I know you're reading this. Thank you. You have kept me afloat when I didn't have the strength to keep going. I love you, and I can't say enough how special it was to hear you say yes. Part of me is still terrified to go on the trip, to even have our wedding on the beach, but you'll be there, and you know as much as I do. Fear can keep me away from the ocean for only so long. As for you readers, take care on the ocean. It still has many mysteries to solve. Some answers will bring wonder and progress, but other answers will strike terror into even the bravest soul.